But I want to start by asking the following, Adriel. You came here on the Starling Cast there with Mateus and talked about the brand, right? We talked a lot about your work. What was the reaction after that? Did people reach out to you more? Were you able to get more clients coming in? Did people get to know your work better? How was it? Give some feedback on how the response was.
Man, the response was excellent. Many people got to know me through the podcast, and many commented that they already followed my work, but didn't know the details of my journey. And then people who were curious to know watched it and came back with really nice feedback. It also translated into sales, right? Into clients, into, well, leads in general, but it was very positive. Starling was a turning point for me.
Cool, cool. And then a partnership with Torcuato came up, right? How did this contact happen?
Man, this partnership was a bit earlier. Yeah, when I launched the first guitars with this brand, because I've been a luthier for a longer time, as I mentioned in the
Yes.
in the episode, I've been a luthier for 18 years. But this brand is recent, and it has about 3 years on average, of existence. And then my first client was someone who was also close to Torcuato. And I mentioned to him, I said, man, now I'm going to start building a team, thinking about putting together a team and all, now that, the start has been given. And he said, who would you like to bring to your team? I said, man, I think without a doubt, it's complicated, but Torcuato Mariano would be, well, a big name for me. Then he said, my friend. I said, no way. He said, yeah, my friend, I'll talk to him here. So, all right, I went to sleep. The phone stayed quiet. And in the morning I woke up, there was a message from Torcuato. I said, didn't he actually say it? And then, man, we started to talk. He told me a bit about the expectations, what he looks for in an instrument.
Uh-huh.
I said, man, let's do it. I want this task of being, how can I say? Yeah, of having my work in the hands of someone so relevant like that, who, man, I'm a huge fan of. I'm a huge fan. And then he, well, agreed right away. Anyway, the rest is in his hands now.
Great. And you guys started these conversations when?
So here's the thing. Nassif was the guy who introduced me to Cassius years ago, right? And the most important thing is the trust that I, for example, have in Nassif, right? Because I've rarely seen a guy who knows, right? Through information and literature, anyone can read and know that there are ways to perceive a guitar, this and that. But when you see that the guy knows deeply, when I met Nassif, I said, wow. I said, this guy is not a normal guy. He is exceptional because he is a guy who talks about construction. He understands guitars. He's the person I know who understands guitars the most. So much so that I asked, what do you think about this and that? And this trust is a trust that is earned by what he is, not because someone says the guy is good. Man, someone tells you they're good and you know it. When I met Nassif, I became a big fan of his, right? And he had once told me about Cassius way back, right? Then this time he called me and said, come here. Do you trust me or not? I said, yeah. I said, I told you that. Cassius was exceptional. Now I'm going to tell you. There's a wonderful guy, Adriel, who is very exceptional. Take care of him. It's what you believe in, what we talk a lot about. I think the world of guitar is a matter of beliefs. No one is right or wrong. Everyone has to play with what they like, with what motivates them, right?
Uh-huh.
But we have all that noise, right? In the guitar world, this, that, and so on. I, thank God, have a very clear idea of what I think about an instrument, what I need from an instrument, right? Yeah. But without knowing much, because if you ask me, oh no, but what wood has the sound? I don't know. But I know when I'm with an instrument, if it's the path I'm looking for.
Uh-huh.
And then he sent me a picture of the guitar here from a drill, right? I said, wow. Then I went crazy. I said, because besides everything he said about the construction, I found it to be so creative, like a unique instrument, right? Yeah, but a unique instrument could be incredible in design, right? Because I think there's a kind of genius in Adriel's instruments that is combined with a very modern, very innovative design, very opening a door, right?
Quite unique, right?
Coupled with the unbelievably incredible instrument idea, right? And when I say this, it's after years of experimenting, going out. We were talking a little bit earlier here. Most of the things I recorded, for example, the solo in Lobin's Revanche, which everyone talks to me about. Man, I recorded it with an $800 Strat. Yeah, with the DiMarzio. The solo for Quando Você Chegou, I recorded with a Frankenstein guitar, right? It was a wood.
Uh-huh.
Wonderful. It was assembled from parts, but they weren't instruments that, for example, were handmade, right? Like with that care, right? Because another important thing I want to say, everyone says no because the wood. I don't know what. It's just to make the instrument more expensive. Man, it's not the wood that makes the instrument more expensive. It's the time a professional spends on it.
Yes.
To make that wood have a certain resonance flow so that the instrument can vibrate anyway. And then, of course, if you plug it into a diesel, that was with a DiMarzio, man, a piece of acrylic or a piece of wood will sound the same to the listener, but not to the player.
It's different.
And then what happened? Just to tell the story, I met him at the pedal fair, and he had the bass that today is with
Fernando Rosa.
With Fernando Rosa. And when I held the bass, I said, "My God, man!" Because only by holding it will you know. There's no point, oh no, saying this or that. And he also had a guitar that he had just made, which drove me crazy because what do I look for in an instrument? To start with him, for me, an acoustic instrument has to be exquisite. So this here.
You even say that, take advantage of it to do some advertising. You say that in the course there.
In the course
that we recorded, where you talk about voice of instrument, right?
The voice of the instrument. And I felt that in his guitar, which still had stainless steel strings. I said, man, dude, what an incredible instrument. Wow. And then we had already talked before. We were already in this thing of creating this guitar, right?
Uh-huh.
And, well, another important thing, well, the work it takes to make a handmade instrument, it's a whole other world, right? And, well, when he sent me the instrument, and I went to Brunetti to pick it up. Man, ask Brunetti. When I did this here, everything here shook. This was going vum in my hand. This might not be important to anyone, but for me, it is.
It's the difference, right?
It's at a level that, man, of construction that already goes to another place. Someone might say, no, but wood doesn't matter. My belief is that the instrument is to provide well-being, to inspire the musician to play. So it doesn't matter what I'm hearing, the person who needs to know what this instrument provokes in them is the one playing it.
Yes.
Right? So if we were talking before, I had told you that I think we guitarists need to think that nothing matters except mastering the instrument that's in your hand.
Yes.
Whether it's a bad instrument, a mediocre one, or an incredible one. And you have to be prepared so that if a bad instrument falls into your hands, you can produce the same sound as you would with an incredible instrument.
Uh-huh.
But the relationship you have when you pick up an instrument like this and you do this, then we start to kind of enter Narnia, right? You go to Narnia Yeah, so that's very valuable to me
Yes.
because that will make me create better music. And it's not about producing a better or worse sound with a $300 guitar or a $5,000 guitar or a $12,000 guitar. A Gil Yaron costs $12,000.
Wow.
And it's the only guitar I've seen that vibrates when you play it. I told them, I said, man, it's
Yes.
so it's a relationship that the musician creates with the instrument, which is unique to each person. I don't think everyone has to believe in this if someone thinks that, and he would. Well, because what matters is what the person is going to play.
Yes.
You understand? So if he's happy with the instrument, any instrument that makes you feel good will be good for you.
That's true.
I went crazy over it. Now, not to mention, right, because when you get into the details, right, for example, the knobs, man,
No, we're going to talk about all those details.
then I'll let him speak. But my opinion is this. It's of such good taste that,
Unmatched.
look, this thing here, the little radio,
Yeah, man. Very cool.
and it's funny because I took it to Flavio Venturini's rehearsal, and then, man, I almost started doing everything with it because actually it was already set for another instrument, right? Yeah. But like when you're playing, you don't want to let go. You say, man, the instrument is very musical, very refined.
It motivates you to want to keep playing.
Exactly. So that's what matters to me in an instrument.
Good.
Yeah. What does it motivate you to play? Because, well, obviously, if you pick up a Chinese guitar today, there are very well built Chinese ones. Like you put a good pickup on it, you'll do your job.
Uh-huh.
But I think the musician has to be motivated. We are looking at something else, except for example, the visual.
Of course.
When you say, man, if I make a video with this guitar, it's going to look amazing, right? Because you say, well, it's something unique, right? It's not like the 300 other guitars out there.
It's not just another Strat.
It's not just another Strat, exactly.
Another
Exactly. So what I have to say is that, well, I think Adriel is exceptional in terms of talent as a luthier. So if he were to make a mandolin, a piano, or anything else, it would be an instrument like that, due to the meticulousness with which he's obsessive about the details.
Uh-huh.
We musicians are like that too. So at home, it's kind of like the vibe of, wait, the instrument is for this. Because when you get to a studio, when you go to a show, every good musician, every great artist is obsessive.
Yes.
They go, not here. It's in the details that these artists win the game.
Uh-huh.
And I think the instrument is the same thing.